Jesus. We've got to get back to loving our God. You loving your God. The God we come to worship. Not the things we worship, right? I just think sometimes we got to bust down idols in our life, you know. I'm telling you, that's why I had to get off Facebook for a little bit, because, man, I'll get obsessed and be on things all the time. So I said, I talk to this thing more than my wife. Gone. Just to be real, because so many good things in our life can so easily become idols, you know. That's why we got to make sure and evaluate, make sure we're keeping God number one in our life, over top of ourselves. We got to love Him with all of our heart, with all of our strength, all of our mind. And my wife said, does that look the same every day? And I thought, I could be thinking a lot. Because some days you don't have enough strength. But if you love Him with all your strength that day, don't you think He's pleased? Some days I feel weaker than other days, right? And a lot of times we'll set ourselves to such a high standard because somebody else might pray more than us. Somebody else might do this more than us or that more than us. And we say, man, I'm not living to the standard, but if I'm loving God with all my strength today, all I can give, it don't matter what anybody else is doing. I'm giving Him my all, you know? And I'm trying to give Him more strength, you know, give Him it all to Him today. He's the only one that gives peace. Give Him all your mind. They talked about meditation, and really the mind's talking about your reflection, you know, your thoughts, you know, your attitudes, you know. God don't want robots. He wants a mind to be intellectual. He wants us to give that to Him, right? We've got to love Him with our whole being. I love when it says strength too. It says power in your abilities. He's saying give Him your abilities, because we have so much that we use for ourselves that we could use for the kingdom so well and still be using them for ourselves, but the kingdom first, you know. It's so easy to do that, but the standard comes back to we have to love with all these things. It still comes back to love. I read a quote, I don't know who says it, but it's not mine. It says, the measure to love God is to love Him without measure. And I was like, that's it. That's all I need. I just need something simple like that. I'm simple-minded. The measure to love God is to love Him without measure. We just need to love Him. Easy as that. We don't have to keep track, keep a record, and do all these works. We just give Him everything in love. And He don't measure that. He sees, well done, good and faithful servant. You might not do it as good as somebody else, but you do it as good as you can. And that's good enough for God. I'm glad for that today, you know. I don't got to preach like, you know, a TV preacher. Not that all TV preachers are good. I just got to preach to the best of my ability. I got to live my Christian walk to the best of my ability. I have to give Them all I have. You guys just got to give Them all you have, you know. The standard's in here. But He said, if you want to, you know what else you have to do? Love your neighbor as yourself. That's when I'm like, oh man, I can love you, God, but my neighbor, forget about her, right? You know? That's where it gets tough. Or let's say tougher. Start to say, man, God, but this and that, you know, they don't meet your standard. Man, they just, 1 John 4, John's really tough on why we should love our neighbor, and he gives just a simple explanation why. 1 John 4:20 says, whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. I don't like to be called a liar. Or whoever does not love their brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. So when he's saying, if you want to love God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, your strength, you got to do that. Love your neighbor as yourself. Because if you don't love your brother who you can see, how can you love God who you can't see? That convicts me. I'm like, man, I got to keep my side of the street clean. I got to make sure I'm loving people. Because he's saying love them as yourself. See, sometimes it's hard because we don't love ourselves in certain ways, so it comes out on our neighbor. But other times, we love ourselves. He's saying, you have ambitions, you have desires, you have interests. He's not saying love them exactly like you love yourself. He says, love the neighbor as thyself. Meaning you have love for yourself, so you should show love for others. Why is it hard to do that? Love God, love others, love yourself. That's where we get joy from, right? Jesus, others, yourself. Right? Got a new word, so it's called gosh. I was thinking we go backwards in that. We go yourself, others, and Jesus. We go backwards in this. It's all like almost an order here. Love God, love others as you do yourself. Right? So we go up the chain. We say, we love ourselves. I'm going to love somebody else, and Jesus, you come in third. You know what happens? We fight. Because here's the thing. Because if we're in love with ourselves before God, and Jesus is coming in third, we're always going to be right. Right? So it's going to be my self-interest, what I want. Because God comes in third. So I'm going to put it on you, and then Jesus is after that. It's not the proper way. So to love thy neighbor as thyself, we got to put Jesus first. Then others, then ourselves. It's not saying we're doormats. Come walk on me. No, there's an overflow of love coming out. Jesus, you're first. How do you want me to treat these people? He says, love your enemy. Pray for those who persecute you. Dang. Eat right there. So I seek harder. I say, I'm mad at somebody, Lord. I pray for them. I pray for healing in their life. Right? That's how you love the neighbor. It's not talking about your friends. It's talking about everyone. Pray for them. Right? Because God says love. With all your heart, mind, body, and soul. And the neighbor just comes in right after that. Because here's the thing. We're ambassadors of Christ, right? So if I say I love God and hate you, you know what they're going to think? They're going to think God's a hater. They're going to think God's mean to people. They're going to think God isn't the God we serve. It's going to be the God we make up. Because it's an idol if we're not serving Jesus first. Are we loving each other today? Are we loving Jesus? Come on, let's get back to him, man. I'm fired up. If we really want to have community, I was reading this week, it says, if you really want to have community, you don't push community. He says, if you want to have community, you get people sold out to the gospel. And the gospel tells you to love each other and to love God. When you do that, you're sold out to each other. There's community. Because you say, really, man, it's not all about me. Answer what you need to do, ask Jesus, and he'll answer yourself. Only Jesus does that. You say, you ask God, how do I get healing in my life? What is written? You ask God, how do I love my neighbor? It is written. How do I make my marriage better? It is written. How do I get set free? What does it say? I'm like, dang, the answer's in there.